On our afternoon program here on High Heat Sands, Alana today, bouncing around in the Cancun. Here is Derek. Derek, welcome. Great to have you with us here. And listen, let's be fair. This is a belated Christmas present. Carlos fell right into the Twins' lap, and you were happy to gobble him up. Let's talk about that first. Go ahead.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, we made no secret of the fact that when free agency started, Carlos was a priority for us. We had a great year with him this last year. He developed into a key leader in our clubhouse. The moment we thought maybe he was going somewhere else, I had a call with him that night, and I was really disappointed. I remember it was a heartfelt, emotional call because I felt his heart was here. There were some elements to that were very clear to me. For this to come back around for us, it's unique, but we persisted and found a way to get it done.
Two things on it, Derek. Number one, I think the baseball community was stunned and happy. Stunned that you were willing to go to 10 years, $285 million with the original offer, which nobody thought that the Twins would go near that figure. And the fact that you did was very interesting for the sport. Discuss that. Go ahead.
Well, I think really what that points to simply is the Pohlad family. Joe Pohlad, his family and ownership really stepped up to try and give us a chance to continue to invest in this team to go compete. And that's been true every year I've been here. The goal is to try and continue to get better, try and continue to find ways to make this club better. And we've had some ups and we've had some downs along the way, but we feel we now have another key centerpiece to pair up with a guy like Byron Buxton that we think can be dynamic and impactful over the course of a number of seasons on the position player side. Not to mention guys like Luis Arraez, the batting champion, and Jorge Polanco and Max Kepler and so many other guys across our game that have been really big parts of our teams over the last few years. So we're excited about the future and what we have now, but a true credit to ownership on that.
When did you begin to think that there was a chance that he could resume negotiations with your team? After the Giants or a few days into the Mets? Thoughts on that?
You know, candidly, right when the Giants situation had unfolded, that morning we were signing Joey Gallo to a deal. And I remember hearing from our writers if there was any question out in San Francisco, and I didn't hear anything about it. Obviously, what transpired thereafter is well documented. But I would tell you that after that, we stayed in touch with Scott, and he agreed, obviously, with the Mets, stayed on the periphery at that point. But when things started to go in a different direction, I just maintained connection with Scott and wanted to be sure that he knew that despite us not coming to an agreement the first go round, didn't change our perspective on the player. And if there was a way to find a blend to our original contract offer and maybe some ideas around what it could look like in a different form, let's stay in touch. And Scott was great. He was a great partner in this process. We continued to have those conversations. And ultimately after Christmas into the new year is when we really started to pick up those conversations.
All right, now, this is a feather in your cap. Why do you think the Giants and Mets were so concerned about this previous ankle, and you, who had him previously, were willing to give him 10 years, $285, and then, jump right back in with vested options and everything else to get to $275? Why they the problems with the physical and not the Twins?
Well, I can't speak perfectly to any other club's process, but what I could tell you is this, that I know there were multiple teams that had interest in him, maybe in a contract structure that looked like ours or somewhat similar, maybe those clubs as well. But I would tell you that we knew Carlos, we knew some things we did learn some things through this process, ultimately, much like those clubs did. We didn't have the full picture of it even when he departed at the end of this season. As a result of that led to us changing our contract structure as well. But the key for me was that what Scott said all along and what I felt from Carlos in that original conversation at the end of the season, and then ultimately when he originally had looked like he was going in a different direction, his heart was here. And the Twins were one of the small groups of teams that I felt like he really felt was a good fit for him. And ultimately, because of that, because we stayed in touch, because ownership was patient, and because we were persistent, I think we found all of that to match up on a new contract structure that we hope manages some of the risk, but also gives him a lot of the upside.
Boy, Derek's doing a good job here. Okay, let's play devil's advocate. Why can the Twins in 2023 avoid the calamity which befell you guys in the last 6 weeks of the season? Well, let's face it, you led the division all year, and then you played very poorly late. Under 500, Guardians overtook. Why next year be different than this year, Derek? Thoughts on that? Let me hear.
Well, I think we all have to own what happened toward the end of this season. And ultimately, we were, as you said, in first place for a good chunk of the year, over 100 games. But that doesn't matter anymore. It doesn't matter going into 23. The Guardians played great baseball all year. They stayed healthy. They pushed. Credit to them and what they did to win the division last year. We feel like with our group coming back and a chance to augment it, we feel our pitching staff's better. Our position player core is a year older and growing. Guys like Jose Miranda got experience, the chance to bring back a Kenta Maeda. The idea of a Kenta Maeda with Sonny Gray, Tyler Mahle, what Joe Ryan did for us, some young pitchers like Bailey Ober, Louis Varland, others. We feel we're deeper than we were at the start of last season, quite frankly. And so as we roll into this year, we have to stay healthier. That was a really tough month of September. We didn't have many players from our opening day roster playing that month, and that was unfortunate. But we can't use that as an excuse. We got to find a way to get on the field, go compete to the best of our ability. I do believe in this group and a chance to go compete this year.
All right. If you had signed originally Correa at the 285, would you have been able to sign Vasquez, or are you only able to sign Vasquez because you thought you lost Correa at that price?
Well, I think the best part of what my ownership, the Pohlad family and Joe Pohlad provides is we were never given some specific number as to either hit or navigate around. We recognize the resources in different markets are set up differently. That's the reality of our sport. But every time I've brought a conversation to ownership that I felt was a good investment, that I felt was going to find a way to make us better, I've been supported. And ultimately, I'm responsible to navigate within the parameters that are generally set. But if there's a good opportunity out there, I've been supported along the way. I think we would have also tried to find a way to add that catcher. Christian Vasquez was someone we really wanted right from the outset of free agency. One of our first conversations, quite frankly, right after Carlos. So we feel we have leadership behind the plate, great up the middle defense, ultimately, great leadership across our team, and a really good culture and everything led by Rocco.
Yeah, very interesting. So you would have signed Vasquez even if Correa, sounds like, had agreed originally to that 285. All right, Buxton there, Derek. We only played 92 games last year. I had him on, believe it or not, in this offseason. He's a nice kid. He's dying to play. But you got to get more than 92 out of him. How we do that in 2023?
92, I agree with you, Chris, that we need to get more, no question. But that was a jump from where he had been, and ultimately since 2017. That's a step in the right direction. Clearly, he dealt with some issues throughout the course of last season. The good news is that the things we know he dealt with, we feel like he's maintained. He's gotten himself in a good position this offseason. Everything we've heard about his workouts, everything Byron has relayed back to us and to our strength coaches and trainers and otherwise is that he's feeling great. He was in constant contact with Carlos Correa through the course of this process. So when I saw Carlos here and I talked to him, he said Buck was feeling awesome. So to hear that from a teammate, to hear that from someone around him, Byron is so dynamic. The player we saw at the beginning of last season is one of the best players in the game. And I think that teamed up with Carlos and a number of young players on our team gives us real hope.
And I'll tell you, he gets a lot of credit. I spoke to a lot of the baseball people in the last few days, and, I was anti-Twin. You know that. So you get me, so you can put up with it because you understand sometimes where I'm coming from. But I say the one message I got that was very interesting is, hey, Chris, stop it. The Twins are trying. I mean, give them credit. They don't have the resources, the Yankees and the Dodgers and the Mets and everything else, but they try. They're trying to win. Why don't you be giving nice to them? And you know what? They're right. You guys deserve a lot of credit. You spent $250 million, mid-market team, and you didn't have a problem bringing Correa back. So you deserve credit for that, the organization. Thoughts on that for a sec? Let me hear. Go ahead.
Well, thanks, Chris. I appreciate that. Listen, you don't get extra credit for any of those things. You go out and you try and win. But I will tell you this: since the day I got here at the end of 2016 and through, ownership has always given me that message. Let's go find a way to build a team that we can be proud of, that will go and compete. And ultimately, we may not always have the outcomes we want, but a chance to win over 100 games just a couple of years ago, to win a couple of divisions, make a wild card along the way. We want more than that, no doubt. Our goal is to win the World Series. That's what everyone shows up to do when they get to spring training. But ultimately, I feel like this is a credit to the Pohlad family and to ownership for investing in this club, investing in a great ballpark here at Target Field, and ultimately a great community here in the Twin Cities.
Excellent job, Derek. Thanks for joining us today. We appreciate it. He fell into your lap, and good for you. You persisted, and you get him. So I appreciate you giving us a few minutes. Good for the Twins. Thanks very much. Appreciate it.